In my Arcade Mania review, which I uploaded before this review today, I discuss about Garnet's fusion, and considering that the following episode centers around Paul and Amethyst fusing to become a giant woman, it's honestly amazing that they establish future vision ahead of time, right before we get the introduction of Ruby and Sapphire. The main characters except Garnet are going to the Sky Spiral in order to obtain the Heaven Beetle. However, Steven really wants Opal to happen since it's a fusion of Amethyst and Paul. However, they're not going to do it unless if it's a real emergency. During the entire mission, Steven tries everything in order to have Paul and Amethyst fuse into Opal. Let me just be perfectly real with you, the only time I remember this episode is mainly the fact that Amethyst twerked. Yeah, that's literally the only thing I remembered from this episode, but after rewatching this episode from beginning to end, it really showcases the relationship of Paul and Amethyst, who aren't really on best terms way earlier in the series. It really shows that Amethyst is the total opposite of Paul and Garnet, and judging of how Tiger Millionaire is literally the episode that showcases Amethyst being in a place that, well, she actually fits in. It kind of shows that the environment that she's in that centers around missions, while mostly her thing, at the same time, it's the total opposite. Let's be perfectly real with you, knowing forward that the development of these two characters will improve later on, this episode just indicates on the fact that they just can't get along due to their differences. So to tell you the truth, knowing how they have to learn on becoming a fusion of Opal for the sake of handling an emergency, it's honestly surprising that when they encountered the big bird, yeah, that's what it's called in this episode, they couldn't be able to fuse due to their differences. With the synchronization not being perfect for the fusion to work, it really shows that the differences are way too difficult to be connected. Mainly on just being on the same track, and the only reason onto why they ended up fusing is mainly the fact that the bird has eaten Steven. Which is also where the Heaven Beetle is at, since the bird also ate it. And with the introduction of Opal, thanks to the fusion of Amethyst and Paul, 100% complete, I'm gonna be truthful with you guys. I didn't realize how great it was to see Opal for the first time, especially with her abilities. Like the fusion of Amethyst and Paul, I'm honestly surprised that I never got any attention towards this fusion in comparison to Sardonyx, who is the better fusion when it comes to the crystal gems fusing together. Mainly Garnet and Paul, but in all honesty, considering of how that after rewatching this episode, it made me appreciate Opal a lot more, considering that the only time I ever heard of her after watching the episode for the first time was when I used to mention her in my chapters of Steven Universe of the Creek, which is honestly a shame considering I would have known the character a lot more rather than knowing the other fusions, mainly Sardonyx. The song sung by Steven Giant Woman is a really good song, and considering of how that the effort that was put into of Steven just trying to have Paul and Amethyst gain along, even though it didn't work out completely considering that they still have their differences afterwards, it kind of shows that Steven is trying to have the two gems come closer together. Not to mention when it comes to fusing, it also foreshadows Steven fusing with Connie later on in the season, but I've already talked about that episode in my Converse Authority. After rewatching this episode, I can say for a fact that this is one of my favorite episodes, since that my original opinions of this have been non-existent because I've been focusing on other episodes. Which really shows that doing this marathon is a good idea to have a new opinion and perspective on these episodes. Opal is definitely my second favorite fusion when it comes to the Crystal Gems, and when it comes to the other fusions, It could change my opinions, but we haven't gotten there yet, especially since that we need to get into Garnet and Amethyst's fusion. I'm giving this episode a 9 out of 10.